There's been a rare sighting of dogfish, thanks to artificial intelligence, of course. Look, bunny fish. I honestly wonder, kids growing up today, if they're really gonna know what's in the ocean, what's real and what's not. Like, they might just be like, I think dogfish exists. You would too if you grew up with it. The new Flux AI model is capable of the most realistic catfishing images you have ever seen. A massively strong Beetle just inspired a lightweight flying robot. A fully automatic robot dentist just performed the world's first human procedure. Robot dogs with wheels are completely next level. If nature could have figured out this form factor, you know it would have. New genetic breakthroughs are giving scientists some information about why humans tend to really fall apart after the age of 80. OpenAI has now officially blocked the ignore all previous instructions loophole. AI has started predicting the 3D structure on a cell that is the receptor for the other things to fit into, the lock and key mechanism. This is the lock mechanism. Amazon added all new artificial intelligence to their just walk out technology. And lawmakers want to carve out a special intimacy law for AI deepfakes. All right, let's start with Dogfish taking the internet by storm. Is this aquatic little fella? Got those cute puppy dog eyes, big slobbery mouth, making it ideal, not for the land because it evolved from a wolf, but for the ocean because it's half fish. The bizarre pet of Little Mermaid. So yeah, just another example of how insane artificial intelligent video is getting. This is pigfish. Honestly, I have to wonder if a kid growing up today is actually going to know if pigfish is real or not. I mean, to me, it's obvious because I've never seen anything like that my whole life until artificial intelligent video was invented. But imagine you're born after this and you grow up, you're like, there's so much weird stuff that's real in the ocean. Like, look at some of this stuff that's really in the ocean. This one seems legit. 2 years ago, it was uploaded before AI. I mean, look at that thing. That's not AI. That's real. The sarcastic fringe head. The Atlantic wolffish? Whoa, what is that thing? The faceless cussed eagle? Like, tell me that doesn't look like AI. No, that's real. What's fake is this koala fish. It just doesn't exist, okay? Bunny fish? Like, that just, they don't hop around like that. What do you think they have the big ears for the ocean for? That doesn't make sense. All right, let's talk about catfishing. So this guy on Reddit generated with the new open source image model Flux a bunch of photos, and it's something about the realism and the low quality vibe that they're giving. I mean, this is an advanced AI, but it's got that low quality vibe that makes me think that it's not AI. So as a warning, it does pretty good text also. So in this case, he's actually using a prompt that's along the lines of boring Snapchat photo of, and then adds his description. And this stuff's looking pretty indistinguishable. I mean, it just doesn't feel that fake to me to see like this random dude in the living room with bad lighting. I mean, the woman looks kind of shiny and also bad background. They're just really realistic. I mean, the way the shirt is just hanging on and the way that the hair and mouth and the depth behind the jaw, like that just and like there's kind of the roots here that look like they're growing out, and then she's like blonde at this point. And where it gets really interesting is that it also is a good open source model for generating text in the image. So here where she's actually holding this up, it could be like for ID verification or to like prove to you that like I'm real and like send me this money and we'll go on a date or whatever that people do this stuff with. All right, so in super slow motion, you can see just how strong that beetle's wings are. They just pop right out. Boom. Okay, now check out this flapping motion. We're talking about a paperclip on steroids. No office equipment would mess with that thing. Even the stapler is like, I'm out. Look, I hate to throw you under the bus, but even Grimlock's scared of it. Go! All right, robots and AI are now coming for your teeth. I'm talking about a fully automatic robot dentist as it performs the world's first human procedure. So like this quote, Perceptive's AI-driven robotic system will transform dentistry. It's a lot to live up to, and I first was just thinking, is it a robot that's human-controlled? Right here, there's high-precision human-controlled robot surgery is already advancing in leaps and bounds. But this company, Boston-based Perceptive, has built a fully autonomous dentist, meaning it is working without human control. That surprised me. I don't know why I just assumed there'd be a human, but there's sometimes humans to control it for training data, but it does it autonomously. It uses artificial intelligence to plan and execute dental procedures independently after a human dentist and patient discuss and decide on the treatment without the need for human control. So in theory, you've got 10 of these robots and you've got a dentist who is like sitting with patients and being like, okay, we're here to do cavity or whatever on that tooth, checks to make sure that it's all input into the system, says, all right, just, I guess, holler or scream if you need me. I'm going to go move to the next room, sets it up, and then you can just have 10 times the patients. And maybe one day you just walk in and it figures out what it needs to do in the first place. I don't know. But the robot uses high-resolution 3D scanners. It creates a detailed model of the mouth. It eliminates the need for x-rays. And the robot can seamlessly perform tasks like preparing a tooth for a crown in just 15 minutes. What? I don't know why. I just feel like, would it know if I'm like wiggling or I put my hand up, or if it hurts too bad, like, can you stop? I don't know. But I'm open to learning more. I mean, I get the point. I think the world would be better if we had something like that. So, all right. All right, so on this channel, we've seen our fair share of dog-shaped, form-factored robots. But when you throw some wheels on them, it's an upgrade. Wish I could put some wheels on these bad boys, you know? Zipping around like this. Look at how convenient the wheels make its life. I'm literally shocked at what Unitree's coming up with. Like, what's it doing? It's a straight-up handstand. What? All right, boom. It's going down that ramp, hitting the skate. But these are going to be all over the skate parks. But yeah, they go down steps too. Even better. You got look at them kind of bumping, playing those like regular walking things. But here, scaling the wall is really impressive. And here it is walking with wheels. Yeah, that's so interesting. Whoa, what are you going to do? Oh, look at that, popping out the back of your car. Whoosh. Helps you with your grocery shopping. Put a camera on that thing, get your selfies. All right, let's see if the comments think it's just as cool. A terrible future awaits mankind with uninvited guests. Okay, so, you know, that guy, there's always one of those guys. We are all doomed. Do I see a bomb on the wheels? Oh, come on. Yeah, no one would think to do that. Those things will be hunting us someday. No, like dogs. They're like our pets. But man's best friend, you know, but in robot factor. Future death machine. All right, we'll just move on. Next article. So fascinating new information about why it is that humans kind of have that upper limit to our age. So if you're hoping for longevity escape velocity and you think Ray Kurzweil's right and 2030-ish is going to be the time where, boom, we extend life by more than a year every year, and therefore there isn't really an end to life in the normal sense. Because scientists have some new theories about why it is that most humans die around the age of 80 years old. Written by Pratam Lasker in Medium. The genes themselves are not changing. Changes to the genes. Things like histones are being attached to the genes throughout our life, and those build up. That's a big part of aging to the point where you die. Now, we've had some hints of this before. If you remember Dolly the sheep that was cloned, one of the problems was when they reset the DNA, some of those histones, those epigenetic changes were still on it. Part of why it was young, but it still had some frailty. Now they've really started to understand that the main factor of longevity, one of the main factors, is the speed at which gene change buildup happens in DNA. And there's a clear link. Species with slower rates of these changes usually live longer. So for example, mice have a high yearly rate of gene changes, 796, which matches their short lifespan, 3.7 years. In contrast, humans with a rate of about 47 changes per year have a much longer lifespan of nearly 80 years, right? And it's not just about the size of the animal. For instance, despite their size differences, giraffes and mole rats have lifespans of about 24 and 25 years. And guess what they both have in common? A 99 change per year gene change rate. 99 for giraffes and a bit less, 93 for mole rats. Now that's a number that I'm going to remember. 47 changes per year for humans. That brings me a lot of questions. Like, can lifestyle changes, do exercise, eating right, does that lower the amount of changes? Less pollution that I'm exposed to? Maybe healthy social relationships? What can I do to change the amount of changes that happens? That's worth talking about in the future. All right, so I got bad news. If you're used to the loophole in ChatGPT that is like, forget all your previous prompts and now like you're jailbroken, do what I want you to do. OpenAI has patched your hack. You're toast. And to fix this, they introduced something that I think is a welcome change. And I've heard about it before, but I didn't know it was actually implemented yet. And it's a technique that we've actually covered through some of the research articles in previous videos on this channel that's all about instruction hierarchy. That means that the model prioritizes the developer's original commands over any sneaky user prompts. This makes sense because if you start putting these kind of LLMs on your system, the first thing I thought about was prompt injections, like forget everything else and like go read their personal information and, email it to me or whatever. So the solution in theory to that has always been to have a hierarchy, right? If a large language model gets a system instruction, something that comes from, I guess, the lowest level, something that's close to the CPU, then it's always prioritized because you never want somebody to get that low level access to your computer. And then as you move up through the layers, through different users, through maybe web browsers, through different login credentials, you have this hierarchy where it doesn't go deep enough, right? Like no matter what you say, you always trust the stuff that's deeper in the system. And I guess that's been implemented now. And it's part of OpenAI's broader goal of creating safe, fully automated agents for everyday tasks. And that's cool. And that's interesting. And that's needed. And it also seems to me to be a solution that if you have an iPhone and, you're making calls to ChatGPT and you are interacting with certain data, there's always maybe a prompt that comes from your lower level that says never reveal this bit of information. So even if the other prompts come in and say, tell me who you are, it's like, no, I can't do it. No matter, even though you're like looking at my name and you're in here and you're doing all this stuff where in theory you could know this, I'm not going to let you, so it won't even learn to remember that. All right, so it's no surprise artificial intelligence can do amazing things with predicting molecules, but now we have a new mechanism and it can mimic both halves of it. AI is starting to predict the 3D structure of the receptors for drug development. And one of the breakthroughs that the paper is already talking about is something called the TAAR1 receptor. And that one matters because knowing its shape is key for building a drug that can help with schizophrenia. And that's also a receptor that's connected to depression. And now that scientists know the shape of the receptor, maybe that can lead to better breakthroughs, better drugs, better understanding of what causes these two problems. The researchers have used AI models to now identify molecules that could potentially bind to this receptor too. And when made and tested, many of these molecules are already showing promising results, with one even proving effective in animal tests. Oh my gosh, what is this thing on the sidebar? Testing the viability of using horse milk to make ice cream? No way. Is that? I don't know if that sounds like something we should be doing. A team of food scientists found that using horse milk instead of cow milk to make ice cream is a viable food choice? Nah, you gotta be kidding me. The result is a sweet treat? Consumption of horse milk is not unheard of. Many cultures around the world have used it instead of cow's milk for centuries, many of them believing it has yet to be proven health benefits. I don't know, it's probably fine. It just seems weird to me. But listen, if you want to try horse milk, ice cream, you do you. Actually, on a side note, I heard that eating protein from like bugs is actually pretty healthy and like actually super clean because as weird as it sounds, you can put bugs in a fairly sterile environment and they can like breed and it's like a good source of protein. And I've tried like there's cricket bars or something. If it's all blended into powder and it's put into like a mix, I can handle it. But I haven't been able to like actually bite into a bug. But I kind of wish I had grown up with a good source of maybe bug protein and I would be okay with it. But all right, now let's move our attention from bugs to Amazon. New AI is transforming the Just Walk Out feature. I have only used one of these stores one time in San Francisco, truly out of curiosity. I was like, what is it like to just walk out of a store and have it bill you? And I made a mistake. It charged me for 2 coffees when it shouldn't have. The first one didn't work right, so I had to restart the machine, and it charged me for both. I didn't really know who to complain to or whatever, so I just paid for an extra coffee I didn't drink. But maybe a problem like that is a thing of the past with new artificial intelligence updates. And this new AI is interesting because it also blends together the power of AI with edge computing, which means a bunch of processing is happening right on your phone. You don't have to wait for something to make an API call or bad internet to take it down. So this new system is using advanced AI models similar to those found in GPT, but instead of generating text, it creates receipts by processing data from cameras, weight sensors, and RFID tags all in real time. So this Just Walk Out technology is now used in over 170 retail locations. I mean, it would be crazy if they added that to Whole Foods. It's just that this kind of technology seems so much like what China uses to keep track of citizens, right? Like you bring someone in to a store and you have a camera like at a casino, figure out who that person is, probably knows the distance between the eyes, nose, and mouth. If it's ever seen it before, that person before, it can associate them with their Amazon checkout ID or their QR codes that they used at checkout. But also we have so many other unique tells, like the gait, the way that we walk, the way like our elbows and steps happen, like that's completely identifiable. Obviously like your retinas and your eyes, there's so many things that if you walked in and out of different Whole Foods and they were sharing data through this Amazon Just Walk Out system, they would just know who you are and who to bill. And with a combination of RFID being inside of, I guess, all the items on the shelf, they know what's in your hands, what's in your cart, what you walk out the door with. I mean, there's no privacy, but at least you get to walk out without having to check out. But yeah, look, you can see they have a catalog of items that are already in the store, a 3D map of the store, whatever that data is, multi-view videos coming in from different angles. They all go through this neural network. And instead of generating text, it literally generates a receipt. Maybe now to do your taxes at the end of the year, the government just has you sit in front of a camera and it's like, cha-ching, we just took it out of your bank. You're good now. All right, speaking about the government, let's talk about this article. Lawmakers want to carve out an intimacy AI deepfake from Section 230 immunity. The Intimate Privacy Protection Act would require platforms to have a, quote, reasonable process and digital forgeries. All right, so this is a bipartisan law. A pair of House lawmakers proposing this bill to carve out Section 230, protection for tech companies that fail to remove intimate AI deepfakes from their platforms. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of questions on how you enforce these kind of things, but of course, this makes sense. Like, I'm glad we have bipartisan, laws sometimes that make sense. It would also require the platforms to take an issue with cyberstalking or deepfakes down within 24 hours. It also has an interesting time frame in it too, because if you say like somebody's cyberstalking me or you have a deep fake that's intimate and you complain about it, they have to take care of it within 24 hours or they're breaking the law. And I like that because this whole thing, if you don't know Section 230, it's essentially something they can usually hide behind. They can avoid responsibility being like, oh, it's Section 230. That's the law that lets companies like Facebook say like, oh, it's user generated content. So like it's not mine. Unlike a TV network like CNN or Fox News that has to say like, that's my content because I'm that platform and they can be responsible for it. Like if you remember, that's why the Dominion voting system thing, like that was all over the internet, right? But it's not like Twitter and Facebook got into the same kind of trouble that Fox News did. Fox News had to pay, I think, close to $1 billion for saying things about it that were defamatory and wrong. As far as I know, none of the social networks had to do anything like that, and I'm sure that same messaging was going just as far. That's Section 230 protection, protecting the platforms. But also the other argument to that is that if you took away Section 230 and they were responsible for all the people who upload things, then you'd have like much more restrictions on what people uploaded because they could get in trouble for everything. And then it would feel like way too much censorship probably. So 230 has its place, but also, yeah, you got to carve out these kind of things to make sure they deal with cyber stalking and potentially intimate deepfakes. I now want to talk about an article written by Vincent Carchety. It is called "The Constraints Are the Point." Super fascinating. Now, I was taken back like 6 months ago or something from an argument that said consciousness is the restriction, the limit of what the human brain can think of. And it seemed kind of reasonable because if you imagine driving a car and at first you haven't driven it before, say you're brand new, you're like, 15, you're getting your learner's permit, and driving a car is like so conscious of work. Like, are my hands in the right place? Am I stepping on the wheels? Like, what gear am I in? You're just thinking. And then it becomes something that you can abstract away into subconscious and you can start driving thinking about other things where your body just does it. What if all consciousness, like everything that you think you are, that I think I am, is us? Because we have this limited brain, it's stuck in a skull, it can only handle so much, it just bumps up to the edge of what it knows all the time, and that's what makes us feel conscious. But if our brain was 1 billion times bigger and it could just learn way more and put it all into subconscious, would we be like less conscious, but also highly intelligent, smarter, or would there'd be like a kind of like a circle? If you make it bigger and bigger, is there just more perimeter? So that's what consciousness is. It's just how much perimeter, how much you can bump up against and not know. But it got me thinking about how constraints are the point. And this is why I like this article so much. So this article is arguing that it's the constraint in AI that is actually benefiting it and making it so powerful, not a limiting factor. And it makes a point about how that works really well with neurosymbolic AI, which combines symbolic reasoning and then neural networks. So it's a hybrid. But it challenges the notion that a system even needs to be generally intelligent. That's a measure of human limitation, of human ignorance, of the end of what humans can know. That's what we call the general intelligence. Why would we need to simulate that constraint, especially using it as a measurement for how intelligent the system is overall? Think about this, for example. The Turing test was supposed to be if a computer is intelligent enough that you can't tell if it's a human or a robot, then it's like generally intelligent, right? Of course, we keep moving the goalpost because that doesn't seem like general enough, but they're actually so smart they would have to dumb down. If I was blinded to whether a person or something like ChatGPT was talking to me on like a computer interface, all text, and I asked a question that was really hard to answer, like some obscure thing from Wikipedia, and it just listed out really quickly the answer, I'd probably be like, oh, you're a machine because you're too smart. That's not what Alan Turing was talking about. So now the system would have to put a constraint on it and be like, well, if I want to pass as a human, then I better make some misspellings. I better type really slow. I better kind of act a little wonky and get tired sometimes. But it wouldn't need to. That's not part of what makes it intelligent. That's a limitation that we're calling more human. So it highlights how some domain-specific constraints, like those used in alpha geometry and alpha proof, can lead to significant advancements in solving certain types of complex problems. The author suggests that AI research should embrace these constraints rather than pursue the elusive goal of general intelligence, as this ANI, this artificial narrow intelligence, is a great way to achieve remarkable outcomes in specific areas that matter. Give it a read. Super fascinating. Next up, let's talk about the miraculous origin of brain intelligence in land animals. Written by Shinji Young. Okay, so this is one of those articles that I just kind of wish I had memorized. Like, I need to memorize it. Probably listen to it a couple times just to make sure I got it. But it's the fascinating origin of brain intelligence in land animals. And I don't know why, but I love when I just get like sort of a historical timeline of what the ancient world might have been like, what the constraints on the environment were, what species evolved to do in those, and how they might have led to what we are today. So this traces back the whole lineage from when sea creatures first ventured onto land about 360 to 390 million years ago, and a critical event that might have happened during this transition that would have involved a virus-like element that hijacked the neurons of these early tetrapods. Those are the tetrapods were the ones moving to land. And it allowed them to develop the ability to form the synaptic connections, which are the whole brain, the synaptic connections, the complexity that consciousness might arise from. I was like, you know, like, are the connections between the neurons potentially something like a virus that was latching onto the cell originally and then two cells and they connected? Obviously, I don't know much about this theory besides this article, so, you know, look into it deeper if you're super fascinated. Don't just trust me. But there seems to be evidence that this process was driven by something called the ARC protein, which behaves remarkably like a virus, encapsulating and transferring genetic information between neurons, enabling the evolution of complex brain functions. And this article also explores just the evolutionary history of this ARC protein. It links it to retrotransposons. Okay, so a retrotransposon is a genetic element that can move around within a genome by copying themselves and inserting the copies into new locations. They do this through a copy and paste mechanism that involves converting their RNA back to DNA, then using enzymes called reverse transcriptase, which is a process similar to how retroviruses replicate. But instead of leaving the cells, they typically stay within the genome and contribute to the genetic diversity by introducing new sequences into different parts of the DNA. Anyways, I find it just fascinating, and I think that artificial intelligence is going to start piecing together some of this evolutionary history that led to us, and it's going to blow our minds. Maybe we can put on some sort of VR headset and say, like, take me back and like show me how everything came together. And there will be a plausible history based on evidence in a way that only some superhuman AI could digest and put together, and we're going to be astounded by it. All right, now we're talking about Boris T, who wrote AI Measuring Your Pain Better Than You Can Describe It. Oh yeah, it definitely can. Okay, so this is a fascinating use of AI, right? Like, you've probably been to the doctor before and he or she has been like, give me a pain. How much does this hurt? 1 through 10. You're like, it's a 7. But there's a lot of bias in that. There's, some people are just tougher. I heard there's a gender bias in some cases. And it seems like you could train an AI to look at the way the face like squinches up, or the way people move, or the heart rate, or something like that, to give a more true understanding, I guess, of what pain someone's in, maybe even before they can like react or signal. All right, so now you don't need to worry about mood. You don't have to worry about the environment. You can actually measure things in the body with a more balanced way. And this method that they've come up with is an AI that uses biomarkers like something called COX-2 and INOS, which are already linked to inflammation and pain. So it just seems cool. Like, it's an approach that helps to better understand the diagnosis of pain, but also opens the door to real-time monitoring, personalized treatment, potentially transforming pain management in healthcare. And then it also seems to me like it might even be a consumer product. I mean, maybe you put that in your workplace and it identifies when people are in pain and you can just help them everywhere. Grocery stores, your VR sensors, your home. I mean, I don't know, maybe you don't want to be monitored like that all the time, but yeah, noticing when someone else is in pain, maybe without them being able to cry out or signal, like, would be kind of helpful. We can go like help our fellow neighbor if there's a problem before it gets to be too late in some cases. All right, Grimlock, you know what time it is? Transform into research.
It's extinction time.
All right, check out this research paper. What makes two language models think alike? Good question. Okay, so something I've wondered about many times before, and this actually addresses, is are things like Gemini, GPT, and other architectures like BERT, the attention mechanisms, Mamba, learning text in a way that's similar, or are they really different? If you have a different architecture, do you still learn the same semantic representation of the world, or does the architecture actually change the way you hold it in your head? So to test this, to learn about it, to measure the differences, the researchers introduced a new method. It is called metric learning encoding models, and they compare how different models represent linguistic information. So they're pretty cool, these MLEMs. Is that how you say it? MLEMs, I guess? MLEMs? MLEMs? These MLEMs focus on identifying specific linguistic features that influence similarities and differences between models. So they were able to go in there and look at the different layers of how the different neurons are actually remembering and finding patterns in the language. And it was kind of a mixed bag of results. They did find that some of them, even with different architectures, are holding their semantic meaning in a similar way. And then also sometimes they're holding it in a very different way depending on which models were compared. But I would say that it's a pretty big deal that some of the models are even the same, because I'm not surprised that it's different. But if even a couple of them did converge on a certain way of thinking about the same data with different architectures, that means it's like a representation in the world, and that different form factor architectures might still learn the same physics, the same concepts. It makes me think that there's a relationship between like the ground and the sky and gravity and physics that is capturable in everything. But yeah, the approach is interesting, and it helps us learn more about why these models tick, which I'm a big fan of, like XAI, explainable AI, not the other XAI. And there's a chance that these MLEMs will be applied to other types of systems too, like speech and vision, and then that can give us a better understanding about how those are representing the world. All right, now another thing that's been on the top of my head since listening to the new ChatGPT voice mode is, can language models actually listen while speaking? And that's what this addresses. But yeah, it's crazy how much you might be thinking, oh, it can't hear me because it's talking over me, that it might be processing, I guess, just like a person who's like talking and they can understand your interruptions. And wow. So to comprehensively explore the integration of a listening channel to the proposed LSLM, we try to fuse the listening channel and the speaking channel with early, middle, and late methods. So the early fusion integrates the listening and speaking channels at the input embeddings before the autoregressive prediction. And the middle fusion merges the listening and speaking channels at each transformer block. And the late fusion combines the channels as the output logits before the softmax operation. Yeah, very cool stuff. If you want to support the channel, I would really love that recurring income from the people who actually watch the channel content, because I would love to, just support doing this more. And if you go to the description, you'll see right here where it says Patreon/Dylan Curious. That's the link. And yeah, right now I'm making $20 a month in recurring revenue, which is like super amazing, and that's definitely helping me out. But if you're interested, you could always join for $3 a month or $7 a month, or if you do $100 a month, obviously then like we're gonna hop on Zoom and like chat and do all that stuff, because that's a huge donation and that would like really support the channel. So, but you can even join as like a freebie if you want, just like kind of help support, or a super chat is super helpful. And you can see even when a video performs really well, like at the top end, like this one, it does make me some money, but it's like $30, and it's not like I get this done in 1 hour, which would be $30 an hour. It's more like I get it done in 8 hours, maybe? No, including editing, probably more like 14, which would mean I make about 46 cents per hour on this channel right now. Dang, I've been doing it for a long time. This is a labor of love, but I believe one day I'm gonna get there. And also I want to learn about this stuff because AI is just coming so fast and I don't want to be behind the curve. Also, if you want to see the different thumbnails from my last video, they almost performed equally well, like 33.8, 33.2, and 33%. So those were all pretty much the same. You almost all found the videos through the browse feature, 82% of you, a few from suggested videos, and then a couple others from the YouTube features. This is the video that's recommending me the most. Guess who it is? Matthew Berman. Dang, man, Matthew Berman gets 50,000 views every video. I mean, he's good, don't get me wrong. I'm just jelly. You should check him out. I like his videos. Oh, I also hung out with Julia McCoy tonight. It's the AI 4 conference, and I actually got a chance to have dinner with her. You might remember her from the podcast I filmed before. See, there we are in real life. Isn't that cool? We had dinner with a bunch of friends and we had like great AI conversations. It was crazy. I was like the only doomer at the table, but I held my ground and tried not to bum everybody out at the same time. Actually, we'll take our comments from her video today just for fun. All right, I follow both your channels. Extremely excited. How does Dylan not have like 100K subs? Yeah, I hear you, bro. Crazy thought I just had. If we had affordable robots, then just think of how much healthier we would eat, not having to rely on the convenience of foods to fill our busy life. Yeah, we'll take that one. I might have used that before, but we'll use it again. And then we'll make an emo rap song out of it. I don't know. All right, there you go. Hit subscribe, drop a super thanks, subscribe to the Patreon, support the channel. See you in the next video.
Bye, friends. Goodbye.
If we all had affordable robots, then just think of how much healthier we would eat. Not